It was so intense, but it was also the most fun I've ever had. I mean, there was a lot of tears, there was a lot of crying. So I was definitely spent at the end of every day, but sort of once you get in the groove of making a film like this, it just kind of adrenaline sort of keeps you going the whole time.
A really interesting idea to take an actress that, for many people, they've grown up and seen her whole life. They've seen her as a child, they've seen her in teens and early 20s, and so that you're almost somewhat infusing some of that the second she pops on the screen and that connection that you might have with her.
Do you enjoy having kind of a one-hander like this? When I was talking to Bryan, I mentioned Ryan Reynolds and Buried. It kind of felt like that a little bit. Do you enjoy doing that more and just having that whole space to play with, or did you kind of miss having actors in a lot of the scenes with you?
Maybe a little of both. I mean, of course, acting with other actors is, a part of what's wonderful about this job. But it really just be me, I think gave Brian and I an opportunity to like he was almost like the other actor, you know what I mean? And the crew, Tristan Nyby, the DP, and like everyone involved, like that sort of became the group that I got to sort of play with. And so that was fun in a different way. But yeah, it was definitely something that made me want to do the movie in the first place, was just having the experience of sort of being alone in a film and seeing what that would be like.
So there any days that you just had to do something to psych yourself up or bring yourself down or just switch your headspace before you went on set?
It was so intense, but it was also the most fun I've ever had. I mean, there was a lot of tears, there was a lot of crying. So I was definitely spent at the end of every day, but sort of once you get in the groove of making a film like this, it just kind of adrenaline sort of keeps you going the whole time. So I felt a lot of that, just adrenaline pushing me through. And then when it was finished, I was like, wow, I've been crying and screaming for like 30 days every day. That's a lot.
Yeah, that's got to take its toll on you. What would you say was the hardest part of the entire shoot?
I think probably just the stamina that it takes to make a movie like this where the emotions are super heightened. And it was very cool that we did a lot of the effects and kind of the horror elements. A lot of them were done as practically as possible. And so that was a very fun experience of trying to see how real you could make something look practically without the use of visual effects, and obviously visual effects are needed as well. But it almost is like kind of a puzzle or like a game that you're playing of learning about how those elements are created and how they're done. And it was really fun to learn about that. And yeah, doing some of those things practically was cool, and making it look real and watching it back on the monitor and seeing that, certain things really did look like they were real. And it was a fun experience to learn about that, and kind of learning about like the placement of scares and like the timing of scares in a horror film. And Brian's obviously super knowledgeable about that and very experienced. And so I got to learn a lot.
Now that you do have a couple of horror movies under your belt and
Mm.
you got a great filmography, tons of stuff going back so long, if you could pick just one franchise, one of the popular horror franchises from Scream to Halloween to be a final girl in or to be an opening death in or what have you,
Mm.
what would it be?
Maybe Scream. Maybe Scream. That would be super fun. I've always been a fan of those movies.
When you sat down to do this, I'm always interested in the thought process that goes on in the writing more than anything else. Did you have to put yourself in a certain headspace?
Music is a huge part of my creative process. Every script I've ever written has its own sound, its own tone, and I'll often say, like, I haven't found a script until I hear the music. And then once I connect to certain pieces, I use that, because I don't always feel sad when I wake up in the morning or terrified, or I don't always want to be in a headspace where I'm hurting characters that I care about and playing God with these, imaginary stories. But I have found over the years that, for this movie, things like Portishead and certain Radiohead tracks I would listen to them first thing in the morning, and in that moment, the switch gets flipped and I fall back into the headspace I need to be in.
Going through the ending of this, it seems like it could have gone several different places. Did you struggle with that at all? Did that ending ever change, or was it always?
Yes, the endings definitely changed a few different times, and I think that trying to find a way to complete Polly's journey while at the same time reflecting a story that I think is about the internal struggles that we go through that will never stop. And, the world is a relentless place and pain is relentless. And so wanting to find that balance in telling Polly's story while at the same time showing the truth to me about what the world is.
I felt kind of like a Ryan Reynolds Barry type of thing, where she's mostly on the screen almost the entire time. Did you always kind of have her in mind for this when you were thinking of it, or did it just...
She was certainly one of the first names that popped into my head. And, there's always been a feeling to me that certain actors you can cast and they will immediately paint a kind of picture. And so I wanted to not... I knew this movie was going to be about Polly. I knew that it was this exploration of this woman, and so I thought it was a really interesting idea to take an actress that for many people they've grown up and seen her whole life. They've seen her as a child, they've seen her in teens and early 20s, and so that you're almost somewhat infusing some of that the second she pops on the screen, and that connection that you might have with her, and then to be able to take that and have that be a building block, I thought was really exciting.
Thank you for clicking on our video, everybody. If you like what you saw here, please make sure you like the video and subscribe and share with your friends who like this sort of content. JoBlo was created by movie fans for movie fans, and we appreciate your support.